in the heart of the Canadian woods, an army of lumberjacks shoot the dangerous rapids of the St. Maurice on their way to start the greatest log drive in history. For 300 miles, the old river's choked with timber. Timber for the pulp and paper mills. Timber to be converted into chlorine, emulsions, and TNT for war. Dynamiters plant the charges that will free the jam, started on its way downstream. For a jam allowed to pile up will often change the course of the river, leaving the logs high and dry. The fuse sputters. Better hurry up, Mr. Lumberjack, and don't waste any time finding a safe spot. That blast is ready to go. And there they come, a sea of timber. 48 million logs of spruce and chuck pine. The specially built steel-bottom alligator boat plows through the floating forest. The man in the bow poling to clear the way. At the sorting gap, lumberjacks separate logs bearing the trademark or stamp of each individual owner. Then up the giant conveyor belt they travel to the mill. Stripped of bark and washed clean as a whistle, they're now cut to size. And there they go, shot through the air like torpedoes to make the world's greatest stockpile of logs for war. In Canada, Montreal Stadium is the scene of one of the war's most colorful ceremonies. The first public presentation of wings to officers and men, graduates of the great Commonwealth Air Training Plan. "25,000 people are here to see relatives, friends, brothers, sons become full-fledged flyers. Each bomber crew receives its wings as a fighting unit. 5 men, pilot, navigator, gunner, wirelessman, and bombardier, trained as a team. Heroes of air battles with the German Luftwaffe are guests of honor. Air Minister Power making the presentation of wings. Past the reviewing stand, all branches of Canada's armed forces march in stirring salute to their new comrades in arms. Tribute from the Dominion to the gallant young men of the RCAF. Three years ago in Ottawa, Canada, these men brought forth a plan that was to prove a decisive factor in winning the war. The idea: send young men from all parts of the empire to Canada for Air Force training. And from Britain, from New Zealand, from Australia, from the plains and farms and cities of Canada, young men flocked to join the RCAF. Canada became the empire's reservoir for trained airmen. Taking to the air in all kinds of weather, winter and summer, they shortened training time by months. Today, 150 training centers are strung from coast to coast. More than 2,000 buildings, settlements larger than 100 towns, busy training men. The first to graduate remain to teach others. Starting with 3,500 officers and men, the plan now employs nearly 100,000 instructors in all phases of ground and air operations. Now, month after month, new legions leave for fighting fronts. Pilots, observers, gunners, bombardiers. How many have gone overseas is a military secret. But the Nazis know that Canadian-trained airmen have turned the tide against them. Geologists tapping the mineral-rich region of northeastern Alberta, Canada, develop a 10,000 square mile range of oil sands. Sands so filled with oil that engineers predict a potential yield of 250 billion barrels. Dynamiters blasts barely 20 feet beneath the surface. Like mining coal above the surface, steam shovels pick up huge chunks of the rich deposit for processing at a nearby plant. Steaming hot water separates the globules of oil from each tiny particle of sand. The oil rises to the top, the sand goes to the bottom. 300 barrels of oil from 400 tons of sand, and they've just tapped the surface. High in the Pacific Northwest, forest giants that have stood for centuries bow to the demands of war. Spruce for building planes and gliders, wood to take the place of precious metals, lumbermen working from morning till night to fill the orders of industry. The government calls for 100 million feet of spruce alone, and by the trainload it rolls to the lumber mills. Women workers of Canada hold down the jobs of their men who have been called to war. Here in the world's largest munitions plant, 18,000 French-Canadian women are breaking all records in the manufacture of ammunition. Every day, they turn out bullets by the millions. Bullets for rifles, automatics, and machine guns. The factory operates its own kitchens, employs experienced housewives to help prepare nourishing home-cooked food. In the lunchroom, 1,500 girls are fed in 15 minutes. Back to work, where artillery shells up to 18-pounders are checked before shipment. And every day they test the quality of their work with point-blank fire on the proving grounds. In Canada, women in overalls are a familiar sight. Replacing men in war industries, these wives and sisters of soldiers overseas are playing an increasingly important role in helping the United Nations win the war. Tossing red-hot rivets with all the skill of veterans, these girls are helping Canada turn out 10,000-ton victory ships. Electrical workers in their white uniforms or tinsmiths covering a ship's ventilator. They know their jobs. The spirit of the Canadian woman is, you sail 'em, we'll build 'em. In the United States, the Women's Army is taking over more operations jobs to relieve men for combat duty. Here at an Air Force replacement base, the WACs, as they're called, serve as ground crews, service motors, repair ships. Today, women of the United Nations are backing the attack, serving wherever they're needed.
events of the Canadian Navy's own show, a musical spectacle staged by the Navy's own men and women to help entertain their comrades in arms. The uniformed audience is most appreciative, particularly when their own sailorettes take the spotlight. For men ashore after months at sea, a good laugh is the best tonic. Patriotic finale, a salute to the Union Jack and to the flags of the United Nations. In centrally located warehouses, 12 million pounds of clothing are gathered for the people of war-ravaged Europe and Asia. Arriving from all parts of Canada, the clothing is sorted by grade and type. More than 6 million pounds of clothing have already been shipped by the United Nations Relief and Rehabilitation Administration, and this important work goes on. After sorting, the clothes are compressed into bales to save vital shipping space. These garments of all sorts and sizes will save lives this winter in nations desperately in need of food, clothing, and shelter. Large stocks of aluminum, originally earmarked for war purposes, are put to peacetime use to relieve the housing shortage in Europe and America. In these Canadian plants, the metal is rolled and shaped. On an assembly line, the houses are put together. Aluminum clapboards provide a strong, all-weather finish. Finally, the plumbing is installed in these completely prefabricated homes. As each house nears completion, the walls are folded in, as demonstrated by this model. At present, these houses are being made at the rate of 75 a month. This figure will soon be greatly increased. Folded for easy shipment, a complete house looks like this. Already in use in Canada, these modern prefabricated bungalows will go to help relieve the desperate housing situation in post-war Europe.